this industry. And it was my first opportunity to be a spa director, and I didn't have a lot of connections in the industry. One of the individuals that I had known is on this call. That's Kim. She was certainly a great support, but I only knew a couple of people. And so coming here, um, it had been a dream of mine to move here in the first place. But when I finally did, I realized in my industry I don't know anybody. And I also didn't have access to a lot of resources, really. I mean, yes, there was certainly like iSpa, but I didn't even understand all of that at the time either. And I really felt like I was seeking out, some kind of association or network or what have you, 15 years ago. And that did not exist. So with that said, here we are 15 years later, and still wondering why we never had an association in our state. There really seemed like no time like the present to offer something like this. I guess I never really thought I'd be the person who was actually just gonna, I guess, start it, run it, whatever. I thought maybe I'd be in more of a support role and hope that someone else might do it. But here we are, and sometimes life diverts us into crazy directions that we never expected. And so thus the association is born. The first person I actually really spoke to about it in Colorado was Leah Nicolay. She is one of our now board members, and kind of shared with her my thoughts, and got her support. And then Angie and Jocelyn and John, and most recently Tracy Harper has joined on our board as well, to take this association to a place that is totally outside of the box. So the reason for this call today, and why it is exclusive to our vendors, and why we wanted really only vendors and us on this call, is to provide an opportunity to have transparent dialogue about how can we as an association provide every person in our industry, regardless of role, regardless of whether you're a vendor, an operator, a student, a school, a practitioner, a seat at the table equally. And as I had spoken to some of my vendor friends, many of you know I've actually been on both sides, as has Leah. And we certainly understand the challenges of both the operation and the expectation of, that buyer role, if you will. And we understand, what it is to be the vendor, and to support accounts, and to try to create business opportunities. I think there's a lot of platforms for creating business opportunities. But I think first and foremost, where business opportunities really thrive are in relationships. And so that's kind of where I see the role of the Colorado Spa and Wellness Association fitting in to, fitting into this industry, and being that we are sort of the opportunity for building relationships, creating new friendships, and letting the rest of that fall into place as it may. So with that in mind, the couple of vendor friends that I had spoken to about this, I was like sharing a bit about the association and whatnot. And one of the big questions came up is, why are the vendors always having to pay more? What is the value for a vendor to join an association? And I was like, well, you got to pay to play. That's really was my answer. And these couple of individuals really challenged that status quo. And if there's any time to shake things up and try to move things in a different direction, and provide an opportunity for everyone to have the same seat at the same table equally, now is the time. So that's why we're here. So we do have questions that we did prepare to kind of get the dialogue going, but this is also an opportunity for questions to kind of just come up as the conversation gets going. So what I ask of each of you as vendors is to be honest and transparent this is a good opportunity to share, what you love about associations, what you think, could be, done better in an association, at the very minimum. Um, Obviously, we have the chat on the side, so perhaps to keep it easy. We do only have 27 of our 40-something participants right now. So there should be plenty of time for each of you to speak. But if there's something you're passionate about, a question you're passionate about responding to, go ahead and just put in the chat, like, me please, or whatever. Just give me a heads up and I'll go ahead and just call on you, and you can unmute yourself. Just again, to kind of keep the background noise from, crowding out the conversation. So as we get started, does anyone have a question about what we're looking to do today and what we're looking to accomplish? I don't see anyone raising a hand. Okay, perfect. And one other note I just will add, our association is growing really fast, which is very exciting. Again, word of mouth, kind of grassroots at this moment, but we are officially doing a membership drive and expanding on August 1. So just know that that's coming, and we will be expanding into the Rocky Mountain region. So that will pick up 5 more states, including Idaho, which Tracy Harper just joined us for that. So anyways, let me get started with the first question. So from your perspective, and many of you are the ones that do decide whether or not you are joining an association, what inspires you to join one? How about, let me, I don't see anyone like raising their hand, but Ellie, I know you're Sprayology, right? Why don't you tell us what inspires you to join an association?
Hello, how are you? I had my on mute because I have a puppy here, so every now and then you'll hear barks. But it really depends. Sometimes it's you're wanting to launch a new region, and so you're wanting to get those relationships kind of sooner and quicker. You like to support the people in that region is part of it, but for us it usually is to make new relationships and to have that introduction. I think that's the primary first thing is relationships, like you were just talking about before, but to meet people, and then for an introduction so that they could learn a little bit more about you and your brand and what it can offer to their situation.
Okay, awesome. And Tambra raised her hand as well. Sorry, I quickly breezed past that. But yeah, what do you have to share?
Well, I was kind of to attest to what Ellie was saying. This is the first association that I personally have joined. And so for this moment in time, for this avenue to be in front of me, it's just really exciting of a way to build relationships with people without knocking on the door and calling, because everyone has so much else going on. So I really feel like it's a really wonderful way to kind of expand and really show kind of who we are as people and as a brand. And so I'm just really excited that this is here and now, and I get to be part of it at the beginning. And so I'm just wondering how this goes. So I'm kind of new to it, but I'm really happy.
That's awesome. And we are super excited that you are on board. I can't wait for your Wellness Wednesday. I'm like dying for it. It's gonna be really awesome. Can I jump over really quick to Tracy Wirtz, because I'm curious about more established brands. Why do more established brands join certain associations versus others, or what's that value proposition for, say, Hydrofacial to join a regional association, for example? She might have stepped away. Entirely possible. Anyone else with a little history? Allison, maybe. Kim? Also probably stepped away. Jennifer, I'm calling you.
Yes.
Revitalash. You guys have been around.
Hi. I mean, the same thing, just, like the previous person said, just not, connecting with people and not having to knock on doors is great. I mean, that's what we're all about is, networking and connecting with like-minded people in the industry.
Mhm.
That's what we love to do.
Yeah. What are some of the best practices within an association have you seen regarding a vendor partnership? And maybe Jennifer, if you want to kind of just pick up from there.
I think obviously open dialogue is key. I think it's sometimes, a struggle when we can't get people to respond to us, and then we're not able, to share information and education, promotions about the brand. So I think the main thing would be just having that open conversation so we can learn from each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, certainly having, seeing, being on both sides, I really try to be that operator that responds, in a fairly timely manner if I'm not at all interested at this time. But certainly, there's a lot that don't. I have felt that where you're just like, now what? Am I failing miserably? But Hannah Duncan, I would love your thoughts on best practices within an association that you've seen regarding a vendor partnership. I don't know if you're on or on me. There you go.
Here we go. Hi.
Hi. Nice to see your face.
I know. I wasn't quite ready. That's okay. I'm not quite dressed. That's okay.
That's all right.
But,
Doesn't you all have to be
okay.
ready.
I know. I'm on my way to another meeting. But what I would say is that having a equal amount of face time or having panels that include both the vendor side and the buyer side are really good, because then you get the perspective on both. And if you ask me why I joined, I mean, obviously, Well Products is a newer brand, but I've been in the industry for 14 years and been part of tons of associations. I would say that the reason why regional associations are important is because people don't answer you, because people don't answer the phone, or they just won't tell you no. And so, especially, I would imagine that the spas are constantly looking to solve problems or looking for something new for their menus. And when you have something that's a perfect fit, it's so frustrating to not be able to just share it with them, And so as vendors, our job is, of course, to be salespeople, but to be good partners. And so if we have really great solutions, then it's really hard to be a good partner, whether the person buys from you or not. I mean, I have tons of clients, even today, that I would say, hey, I'm coming into your area, in 4 months, I would love to set up a training for your staff, and I'll never hear from them. And they keep purchasing from me, And so it's so strange when you want to be a good partner, that you are unable to do that. So I think for me, specifically joining this association was so that I could learn more about the needs of this particular area, which are going to be much different than Florida, let's say, and kind of tailor some initiatives, some promotions, some new products to specifically this area. And again, I can't share them if the buyer doesn't answer the phone, or just doesn't even tell me no, so I can move on.
Right. Yeah. I couldn't agree more, and you are getting kudos, I'm sure, across the board, and from Ashley as well. And you're right. I think that's certainly a challenge, and I think as we move forward, creating those opportunities, like our response as an association can be to create that open dialogue,
Right.
like this sort of opportunity to connect, find out how do we work together, how do we solve problems, and how do we communicate, really,
Right.
at the end of the day.
Instead of the buyers looking at us like we're telemarketers and our phone number equals spam. But at the same time, we also have to, as vendors, have the respect for the buyers. And when they say no, it's a no. Or if they say, can you check back in 6 months? Then we check back in 6 months and we leave it alone. So it goes both ways for sure.
Yeah. I agree. Does anyone else want to piggyback or add to that comment as well? And I think, maybe Hannah kind of spoke a little bit to this too, but what events and or trainings have been the most successful so far? And if we can think of that, and it doesn't necessarily have to mean that it was successful in an association setting, because again, I feel like anything goes here. We have such an opportunity to shake things up and create change in our industry, and really all of us bust out of the box. So is there something that's been even successful outside of an association type of mindset, that have been successful? And maybe to that point, is it something that you think we could do for one of our virtual events, for example?
This is Ellie again. How are you? I'd like to add, we have, when we look at what has been successful, it's kind of a time where we're going to have to look at kind of taking from what's been successful and re-looking new ways. I think that communication is going to be key, but at the same time, the buyers are going to be under more stress because they're probably wearing more hats now with a smaller, skeleton crew as they get back into full business. The brands themselves are doing more with less as well and coming off of stressed financial times. So, finding and utilizing quality communications that make it easier for everybody to kind of communicate. In our industry, we are such a touchy-feely, relationship-based, which is something we love about it. But there's going to be a transition time where we also have to look at how can we be efficient, and still they know we love them, and we love our partners. I use with some marketing that I do for, whether I'm organizing kind of like a project manager with marketing and dealing with someone who's doing some artwork and someone who's doing some copy and doing different things. I actually utilize Slack. And I don't know if anyone else has utilized Slack and can talk about it. I am by far not an expert on it, but it is a tool where, a buyer could even have, all of their vendors, and if they wanted to tell them all something at one time, they could, in a touch of a second, they can even send a little video out, or they could privately notify them. They could keep, documents there that people might need, or fulfillment. So there are some technologies out there. I don't have the answer as to what's the best for different places or what they cost, but they're generally now pretty available and not very expensive. So it might be something that will help some buyers, especially, become able to communicate with more people when they have more things to do. Just a suggestion.
I think that's great feedback. You're getting some cheers on that. And I think that's, this is also a great forum to help each other as vendors. Does anyone else have any other events and or trainings that have been successful so far? And again, as they've been successful, to Ellie's point, we may need to change them up a bit, but sometimes having that foundation and not totally reinventing the wheel, but being able to kind of play off of something that's worked before and kind of turn it upside down on its head a little bit is helpful, because then you don't have to think from scratch.
Holly, this is Jennifer. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. So first of all, I use Slack, so love it, Ellie. I think I do use it, within brands. So individual brands have it within their internal teams. But it has been a great place where you can share industry news, you can share an article if you want to pass a quick, note to your customers. I think there's huge benefit in that, and how that could really work. I want to say that, this whole, of course, mess that we're in, there's so many positives that we can see out of it if we just look for them, right? And what I've been really enjoying with the trainings is they've really become more personable. I mean, it is hard to fly around the country and get everywhere, but this, like we're doing, the Zooms and the FaceTimes, I think that it's become a lot more fun and interactive, believe it or not. So with clothing, for example, with one of my customers that has a clothing brand, we're like, okay, I want everyone to go grab a pair of pants and try them on, you know, and we've been able to have this kind of activity going on. And so I think there's just, if we just look at it, if not such a formal training that we've always had in the past, where everyone just sat in a row and just listened and took notes, and found a way to have it a little bit more active and have fun with it. You can even do it in a shorter training period, but those are those little sound bites that I think stick with us a little bit more. And how you can do that with, you know, each of your brands is going to be different, but I'm really enjoying that aspect of bringing it to life.
Yeah, and you know, it's fun. Obviously, I'm, you know, hosting a lot of these with the association, but I'm finding it to be very rewarding in that we are able to connect more and get really creative and have kind of a lot of fun with, you know, with these virtual events and experiences and education and that type of thing, for sure. Can anyone share, and this is, you know, I really think that this question can be, it's okay if it opens Pandora's box. That's just what I'm saying. It may not, but just know that it can, and if it needs to, it should. So the question is, what is currently lacking in the partnership, specifically speaking to associations for vendors? Anyone? Yeah, Jennifer.
I would love to see how the sales are. I mean, tell me, share reports, let me know. Maybe I can give you some creative ideas. I can put together a little merchandise and send a picture, you know, what to put on your mannequin, or how to pair things together. I feel the visibility of knowing how well or not well the brand is doing. So I know it's hard to run a report and send it to your vendors, but we really do want to help. We really do want to know what that looks like.
Yes, use a 9-inch straight flash. First, you cut your 12-inch corners. You want to go up minimum of 6 inches on the sides. Actually, I'm going to go 6 inches out of the silk and strap at the corners. And the next
That's not me.
I just muted just in case. Sorry. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Well, I mean, I think I kind of finished it. I hope everyone heard. I was just saying that we really do, as vendors, would like to know how well or not well we're doing, so that we can, because you buy from us, so we see that sales, but we don't know how your sell through is, and that visibility could be very valuable. And just little tips and tricks are, you know, we want to help, but we can't be there to help. Do it every day. So monthly reports, quarterly reports, something that you can just run and share really fast, and we'll dig into it and see what we can offer back.
Yeah, I think that's really good feedback. Jocelyn made a comment here, which, you know, obviously from a buyer side, which could be helpful to our vendors, is being in the operation and having vendors send a file that has everything, right? Product info, MSDS, the marketing, the protocols, the price list, the W-9s and COIs all in one place is great, because a lot of times, you know, just to put that into perspective, we'll get, you know, a tidbit here or a tidbit there, or, you know, we'll have to request, you know, the W-9s, for example, or, you know, the cost of treatments. If all of that can come at once, I certainly think that that's helpful and will minimize certainly the digging through the emails, if you will. So hopefully that, you know, that information helps you as buyers or as vendors a little bit. But, you know, I think, you know, one of the things that with this particular question, I would love to hear anyone's thoughts on, you know, are there any frustrations, and you don't have to call out any particular association specifically by any stretch of the imagination, but from an association perspective, what's lacking in those relationships or those offerings or whatever that is. This will help us to kind of identify how we can better create that level and equal playing field for all of you.
I have
Anyone?
an idea. This is Ken from Olavi. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
So this is very unrelated. Actually, it's totally probably even off base because I think a lot of associations that I've been to in the past, the events are almost like too business oriented. It's like, okay, the vendor set up a table and then you have the spa directors come along, and it's like there's a lot of pressure for everyone to perform, so to speak. And what I would like to see is almost like informal gatherings. Like, for example, Denver has a bunch of, a lot of spas, hotel spas. In Vail, up in the mountains, you have as well. I mean, if there are just kind of regularly scheduled events, like, for example, I have a pretty big place in Denver, with a pretty big backyard. And I just got a huge ceramic, like, big green egg type of cooker. I mean, I would love to just get an excuse to use that thing and have a barbecue. So for me, it's more like really getting to know each other, because I feel like, just like, was it Hannah that was saying earlier that, you feel like every time you make a call, even if you're trying to help, you are still seen as a salesperson. Like, okay, you want something, you want them to sell more of your products. But what I feel like, and the reason I got into this industry was I really felt very good whenever I visited a spa. People were very nice, and I just fell in love with it. That's how I started the company. And but after starting the company, I realized, oh, wait a minute, it's different, because now I'm not really seen as a person anymore. I'm seen as a salesperson or a vendor. And so, even when you reach out, sometimes just really friendly hello and whatnot, I don't hear back. So I think if we have opportunities where we can get together and really sort of form some friendships, like I've said with some of you there. Oh, she's not there anymore. She walked away. Like Leah and I actually hang out once in a while. And so, I think that would be really nice. So just a thought.
Yeah, I think that is certainly something that, some of you that know me really well know that I love a good get together, and love hanging out, and just not even having to be about business, but certainly with those in our industry. There's definitely a few on here who I've done that with. And I think we do need to create more of that. That is something that we plan to do, and not have it be necessarily the sales job, right? And not necessarily have the table set up like you were mentioning. There are businesses that do that already. That doesn't mean we can't partner with that, or that we can't consider that as an opportunity and create that too. But ultimately, for example, John Quarles has already offered the Brown Palace for our very first get together. And although I must say we have to kind of wait, obviously, until it's really safe to do so, because I don't want to just say only 50 people can come. That stinks, because then we don't become inclusive, we become exclusive, and we have to plan invites, and only certain vendors can come, and only certain operators can come. And it really should just be like, hey, let's just all get together and have a great experience, and really think, create opportunities to maybe have brands come early and offer, say, a service to those that are interested in RSVP for it. But in the end, after all of that, let's say, have a great big cocktail party or high tea with a shot of alcohol in it. I don't know. Does that work, John?
Okay, I have an open invite. So this is my backyard.
Yeah,
right here.
yeah, we're coming over.
That's my, you see my ceramic egg? So open invite. If you guys want to organize an event here, anytime.
I'm gonna put you on our event space. I promise. We will do something at your house. You can totally host it. I love that. Really quick, if I can digress for a quick second. Yeah. If each of you have a moment, could you, next to your name, can you put what brand you're with too. Just as a quick snapshot reference would be awesome. I know some of you are kind of doing double duty, and that's okay. But if you could take a moment to do that, that would be awesome. So with I love that idea, but that is something that I do feel like is lacking. I feel like a lot of it is a lot of the associations focus a lot on sort of that sales thing, right? Being that person, or that that business, so to speak, that connects that buyer to the operator and decision maker. And to me, the forefront of all of it is relationships. Ellie, I noticed that you unmuted. You
Yeah.
want to comment? Yeah.
Well, I think two things are being said here. One is kind of, how things work between, the vendor and the spa itself and the buyer, and sometimes how, the vendor might feel. But you have been asking how you guys can support that and how it can be as a kind of, joining of those, to help both sides. And, my background before I founded Sprayology 20 years ago was I was a national director for Christian Dior, running the department stores for accessories and jewelry. And, it's the challenge of spa because they have so many different roles and hats, with the service side and the retail side. And although Sprayology does a little in the service, we're primarily a retail brand. And it is a real challenge because you kind of feel like, energies or things it's what's left after all the other kind of takes it, kind of. And whereas my history before came from, if they weren't working with you in partnership and providing sales, and you could see your sales going down, and you could do an event or do a promotion or do something to support them, because when you're working with people who are just retailers, they have to have success in that segment. And so we kind of find, so you have it in different markets, in the country, where you'll have really, strong businesses on both sides of service and retail, and others where they just, I don't really want to focus on that. And so it does become hard when you're spending resources and you don't know if that's going to be the situation. Maybe you spend a lot to get in and to get started, and then, they're on to the next thing. So I think it's almost, what I would love to see from an association is, who are their spa partners and kind of what are their priorities? Maybe they have to pick their battles and they really want to be this. And, they want to have a little, and then, I have other spas who are doing, over $1 million a year in a small boutique, and we're the number one on the body side. So it's kind of like you can spend a lot of energy, and so you don't get that time to have fun and have all those other things going on, because you just really don't know where you totally stand or what their focus is. So maybe an association can kind of have a deeper understanding of, and maybe that's a fantasy, but what those spas are looking for, or what they want to see happen. So you said, maybe you'll open a can of worms, but that's just, something to throw out there. I'm muting now. I'm muting.
Holly, can I say something?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I love her point for sure. And I think something that Spa Tech always did, which I thought was really cool, was they would ask the buyer, what are you looking for? Why are you here today? So if the association could put something together where it's maybe like a biannual list, or quarterly, I know is probably asking a lot, but like twice a year, just send out a questionnaire to the vendors and say, what are you looking for right now? Or what are you interested in learning more about? And have it in their profile someplace or something, so that we as vendors know who we can reach out and help.
I think that is a fantastic idea, and I don't think it's too much to ask by any stretch of the imagination. I think, both Ellie and Hannah kind of hit the nail on the head, I think, and being able to identify why someone might be here. I did a couple of weeks ago send out a a survey to all of those that are subscribed to our to our email blasts. Most are informal, as I'm saying. They haven't converted to a formal membership, if you will. And the feedback that I've received so far is good. And kind of target some of that. And one of the things that I was curious about in that questionnaire, so if any of you haven't filled it out yet, I certainly encourage you to do so, is to collect. One of the questions in there is to really kind of find out, what do you want to see, particularly right now, kind of focusing on that sort of virtual event type of thing, but what do you want to see for events, and what would be beneficial to you? And that's it, information that, and also the other question was, one of the other questions was, why, what do you have to offer? What do you want to share in terms of education? I mean, we have, of our, the Angies and the Johns and the Jocelyn's and the Tracys and so on of the world on the operations side have a plethora of information that they can share and offer. It doesn't have to just be a vendor that offers, say, a virtual event or hosts, a cocktail party where we all just get to hang out, but they get to be sort of the hostess of the mostest and kind of guide what they want that experience to feel like. And that's kind of the, kind of what I'm looking for. And I love that we've opened that door, and that you all have shared that, because I think that it is something that we can and should do regularly. And I mean, hopefully more than twice a year. I think quarterly is great because things change so rapidly for all of us, including you all. Would anyone else like to share anything, any other, feedback there? Jocelyn, you brought up an interesting, you sent me an interesting little note right here, that I would love for you to expand on that a little bit publicly, if you don't mind, because I think it's interesting.
Just from what Ellie was saying in regards to, what the directors need. Is that the one you're talking about, Ollie? Okay. So I use Nextdoor Neighbor app all the time. And, people go on there and they express what they need. So it might be something that we create on the website where, the people in the operation go on and they mention what their needs are. And it's something that the vendors can then be looking at and reach out in a real-time manner, based on what you see and what you think would fit and support that operation. Because sometimes we don't know who could actually help us with the challenge that we're incurring or the need that we have. But if you're on there and you're seeing it and oh my gosh, that's totally me. And just like on Nextdoor Neighbor app, where people either in the operation say, hey, you need this person, or the vendor's like, that's me. And then you shoot us an email and let us know that you saw us on that dialogue. I think that would be great. And I think that was incredible feedback, because right now we live in a tech time, we live in real time, and when we need something, our boss needed it yesterday. So if we could create something like that, but it sounds website challenging, we'll have to get Ollie's sister involved.
Yeah, no, thank God she's good at what she does. Robbing her of her time poses to be more of a little bit of a tricky proposition, but I love that idea, and we can certainly look for ways to even simplify it with something that I can do to even get it going initially, and then continue to let that evolve. So with that in mind, and you kind of, set this up, right? That's kind of why I called on you, Jocelyn, to talk about that, is because I'm curious what type of other innovation within our partnership needs to be seen that has been seen nowhere else. Obviously, that's one of them in that real time kind of context, and not, no disrespect to Spa Tech, because I love it, and I've certainly been fortunate to be on both sides of Spa Tech as the buyer and as the vendor. And I don't want to take away from that platform by any stretch. They do what they do, and they do a great job. But to the point of Jocelyn, you know, what are some things that no one else is doing? What are they not that we can? And this might be a little hard to kind of come off, you know, at the top of your head. But certainly, if anyone has any crazy ideas, I'm this type of person. Throw the spaghetti on the wall and see if it sticks. Like the whole box of spaghetti, and then more and more and more, and let's see what sticks. So what do you got? Anyone? Is this a Bueller moment? Ha, aged myself. That's okay. We're all in the same company. No one. Probably a big question. Maybe give that one a little bit of thought, and certainly send me an email. You know, I don't care if I get 500 of them. You know, I'll compile all the information and see what we can do to innovate. I mean, that's really where we're at here, is this idea of innovation and shaking things up, and creating opportunities that have never been created before in this type of atmosphere in our industry, and just see where it goes, right? I'd rather try something and have it fail than not have tried it at all. So maybe think about that a little bit more.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, so just trying to learn about this. So I was thinking, you know, with the association, how are you going into these new territories and gathering new memberships and viewers? Because for us, you know, I kind of put a little note of just letting the vendors say what they have to offer, because some have body and some have, you know, earrings, or, you know, and I think that spectrum is really broad. And so to know how to kind of, and so then to just help me understand where the association is gathering. And so then we can kind of figure out how to then we dig in more and help those find each other that need to, like a speed dating, but on Zoom in new states. And it's all a big kind of neat process. But
Yeah, a couple things, thoughts on that. I mean, so far we've been very grassroots. I mean, I kind of tested the waters, right, with these advisors who are now going to be board members for us, to see what the interest would be. And we're definitely seeing that interest. So one of the first steps that we need to take is to recruit at the state level additional board members. So started with Tracy, and she was super excited to be on board. I mean, that was a no-brainer for me, and I'm glad she didn't say no. I think I would have been like, no, what do I do? I don't have anyone in Idaho. And I've got a few individuals that I have reached out to, and actually some of the vendors here have proposed some operators in some of these other states. So we'll be, you know, expanding to having board representation at the state level. Similar to some of you are on the members of the Southeast Spa Association, and then at the state level having an advisory council. So that council will be representatives that can help focus on their state in particular, in terms of the needs of their state, the needs of the people in this industry in their state. I will put it out there to all of you. We do need representation on our board, and I do believe also at the state level in terms of advisors from our vendor partners. Whether you're a formal member right now or not, doesn't really, it's irrelevant to me. We need all the voices to represented through, you know, sort of a consistent channel, right? So that it's not all over the place and cluttered. And being that we are so new, you know, we're really, you know, trying to take everything happens so fast, it seems like, but I'm trying to sort of slow it down while also pressing forward in being very methodical on getting that initial group together so that then we can focus on how do we connect all of you, for example, with vendors or with buyers, or even with other vendors. Maybe you need advice. Maybe you want to partner with someone. I don't know. I mean, you look at all some of these really interesting partnerships that have come out of vendor relationships, like, you know, Hydrofacial and why am I blanking? Circadia, for example, just throwing that out there. So who knows where that can go? Right now, and I think one of the things that we can do, and kind of going back to this idea of next door neighbor app, as sort of this idea, is we can initially even create I can very quickly update the membership form to say, what are you looking for? Why are you here? Why did you want to join this association? To at least give us that opportunity to include that information in our member directory. Now, again, I have a lot of informal members. I have more formal members that are vendors. I have more informal members that are spas and spa directors or spa staff. But the idea is to do a membership drive. And then you'll start to see that member directory be populated, and I'll send out all that information hopefully soon. Working on the member side of the app, we actually had or of the website, we actually had a challenge with a couple of things that require coding, but so we're going to simplify. So we're digressing a little bit there, but we'll have that member side set up. Jocelyn made a comment here, which I do think is important to note, is that, you know, obviously when vendors partner with each other, you know, it certainly makes that sales process stronger. And how can we as an association offer that? I think where that's going to come from and where the growth is going to come from is once we get these key roles in place. That's that board, that's the advisors, and then working with people within your communities to create opportunities to get out there, right? And to share your brand and to network and that kind of thing. Ellie, I see you.
Yeah, if I could just make a suggestion for your formation and when you're coming up with things. I have seen different regional things come out like, you know, over expectation. You know, they're going to do everything, and then with your other jobs and things, it then just kind of gets behind and it fizzes out. And as a small vendor who, you know, really has to pick and choose where I can afford any membership or things, you know, we really have to, you know, every dollar has to make sense, especially coming through COVID and different things. So I just, you know, have somebody at your table when you're kind of deciding, you know, this is what we can offer, or this is, you know, what, you know, monitor your expectations and have it so that there's a sustainability there that that feeds the organization versus like all of a sudden, you know, just a little warning. I've seen it, been around 20 years now, and I've seen which, you know, a lot of these things come up, and then you're like, what happened? You know, we had our first thing, there wasn't an easy to follow plan, and then we never got another thing out of it. And I have seen that in a lot of different regions, because I look at it from a national perspective. So word of caution, have somebody at the table who's going to kind of say, can we really do that with the resources we have in the timeline that we have it?
I think that is amazing advice and a super great reminder that I kind of wake up some days and I'm like, oh my gosh, am I really prepared for this? Because I can't start something and not finish it, right? Not see it fully. That's just not who I am. Fortunately, right now, fortunately or unfortunately, I'm not sure. Fortunately, I'm still on furlough. I'm the only one, you know, representing this association that is not back to work. And so this is my full-time job right now. And to be quite frank, I would love to see it be my full-time job. And not that I wouldn't go back to my and get my property open and support that. I don't see myself, and personally speaking, and to be fully transparent with all of you, and some of you have already heard this, is that I've been wanting to move away from the day-to-day operation for a little while now. So kind of and didn't realize that this would be the avenue that I might take. So obviously for that, membership is important to be able to eventually pay myself, so I could leave that. I'll be obviously upfront about that. But right now, thankfully, because of the partnerships that we do have so far with our vendors, I don't have to do any more out of my own pocket, which is great. So that's sustaining some of the things that we need to do. But to your point, Ellie, it will be a reminder that I certainly, and I'm sure the board is aware of their commitment and what they can offer, what they can do, what they can't do right now, how much time they can give or not. It's a good reminder that I think we'll need often. And when you say something like that, it actually I do see what you're saying, and I even a couple of these networks come to mind that haven't really gone anywhere, or seem to only pop up every once in a while. And I'd like to be more present than that, because I think that's important. So Ellie, maybe you need to be on like the board or advisory council.
I'm on mute. No, but I have a puppy to give everyone a little happy bit of their day.
Happy days. Okay, so
Happy to.
let me ask you guys another question. What do you as a vendor bring to the table to an association? And then the second part of that question is, what do we bring to you as an association?
Okay, I'll speak.
Thanks. I love it. Appreciate it.
I know, that's a loaded question. Honestly, okay, so I've been in this industry 30 years, and I can't believe it. I mean, I thank God for hair color to cover the gray, because you'd never know it. It's been the most amazing journey, but it's been a journey because of all the people that we've had an opportunity to work with, and the challenges that they've had to face, and how we help them find solutions, or even the great success stories and being able to share them as other things to share. So in other words, I feel only as fortunate as the people that I've surrounded myself with. And so when somebody's struggling with something, I don't have the answer, I feel like I know there are a great resource of people that do. And I feel like that brings value from me to them, that I know somebody that's been through that. Let me connect the two of you, or let me call. Or because you've posed a great success story or a challenge, it sets me on a path to want to learn more about it and research it. So I think I think it's twofold of what we bring to each other. Is it's not based on the brand, it's just, life's work, life's experience, and being able to connect people to help with that. I mean, I always think of Alan Scher, like we call him the mayor in the industry, right? Because that's what he does. That's what he's built his whole business about, is not always having all the answers, but being able to connect people to do that. And I guess that's what I see as a value that vendors and spa directors can bring to one another.
I think that's super insightful, and you're 100% right about Alan. He's my big brother. He actually lives about 10 minutes down the road from my parents, where I grew up, which is kind of funny. He sounds just like all my friends back in Minnesota. Minnesota, don't you know? I don't have it anymore, I don't think. Does anyone else have any feedback, or shall I continue with a couple of others? Oh, you betcha. Yes.
Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa with Mare. so happy to be part of this call today. And I'm not really answering the questions, but just what I've heard over the last hour, I'm really grateful for this association, and what I see as the role, purpose, and function of associations is to have that connection and have that camaraderie. Because we have so many experiences that are unique to our industry. So just being able to share those and really elevate each other. Like, we're all talking about finding solutions to problems, and quite honestly, I've only had positive experiences with spa associations, the main one being the Las Vegas Spa Association. And that has just been really lovely. I mean, vendors will host a presentation for lunches. There's a lunch once a month for all the spa directors and managers. Vendors will host a presentation, so just a quick 10-minute presentation on their brand, and then give out whatever gifts and samples they want. So it's a really high-class way to have a little bit of time to do that, and also get products in people's hands. So nothing about it feels salesy. It's all just genuine. Here's a little piece of information. Here's some products to try. And then, so vendors are just invited to some events, and there's really 2 for the year, where the end of year, where there's awards given by the board, and they highlight the management or the directors, or innovation and creativity. So to me, I don't have any suggestions. Maybe the only suggestion I would have is to keep things structured. I think have that structured time, and then I think Diane, yeah, there we go. Some of the best organizations I've been in, just as a professional in general, is the well-structured organizations where someone's keeping track of time, and if there are presentations going on, it's a set amount of time of 5 to 10 minutes. So that would really be the only feedback for getting started. And then beyond that, it's really about networking and connections, and that's what makes this industry so beautiful.
I love that. Thank you so much for speaking out and up about your experiences. I mean, it's certainly helpful. And you know, I've learned a lot from that particular association. And I'm excited too, just so you know, we will, I'll be moderating the beginning of, and I forget the exact date because I don't have it right in front of me. I live by the calendar. I have so many dates in my brain, but for Live Love Spa has their Wellness Pro Summit, and so I'm moderating this conversation about how how to collaborate over compete when it comes to the future of regional associations and sort of come together. So that'll be a really interesting conversation, and we do have the Las Vegas Spa Association as part of that, one of the panelists. So that's really exciting to hear. Let me bring up and kind of shift gears here. And speaking of time, we're at 12:04. I know a couple have had to drop off, and hopefully we'll still see some more join us in this second half. And it certainly doesn't have to take a whole other hour, but if it does, I wanted to make sure that I carved out enough time for everyone to share some insights, advice, make their put it out there, what they're looking for and what they feel like as a vendor you really need. So please make sure that just know we have another 55 minutes to chat if needed. But one of the other questions that I wanted to bring up is thinking about post-COVID. And I know there's a lot of conversation around that, but I do think that as an association, we potentially have an opportunity to be even more supportive than we've ever been able to be before. in a much bigger way. So where do you see the future of spa and wellness going during and post-COVID from a vendor perspective? Amanda from Yanka, I know we spoke. I don't know if you're open to talking a little bit, but I'd love to hear, or Robin, if either one of you, Carrie, would be interested in sharing what you guys are thinking, or kind of how you're planning as a vendor, and how can we support that.
Hello, everyone. I'm so grateful to be here, and I'm really thankful to be part of this organization. Where I see our industry going is, I feel like our best is yet to come. I think we're going to see a huge focus on wellness, and we're really excited to be part of this organization to learn how we can best support our partners in providing wellness, and then also just to help with continuing education in achieving wellness as we move forward past COVID.
I think you and I had a really great conversation about that, and I really couldn't agree more. And I think, as we discussed, and if anyone else wants to chime in, please feel free. I don't need to listen to myself chat anymore. But I think people are kind of, before COVID, people were starting to be a little more interested in wellness, right? And being sort of buying into, that spa is more beyond just the beauty side of things, right? It's not just about the outside. There's a lot of benefits to getting that facial, or getting that massage, or this industry from a whole holistic perspective, right? And that we're more than just prim and proper. But I think with COVID, I think that I do see that people are becoming more interested in, how do I take care of myself, right? And they're really finding where their values are. We're sort of forced to, right? Being on lockdown for as long as we were, and how do we stop this trajectory? Does anyone else have any thoughts or feedback on that particular topic? And even, I know, John, you love that question. I know that there's a lot of this is about, our vendors, but perhaps some of your thoughts and insight can certainly be helpful to how we go forward, right? No one? I'm putting you on the spot, John, then.
I'll take the spot for just a second. I like this question because when we close and opening was a big question mark out there, all these phone calls started happening, and I couldn't even tell you which phone calls I was on early. But a lot of the conversation became about, the spa industry is going to go touchless, and the human contact's going to go away. And these were obviously very early conversations. I personally never believed it from the beginning, but I do see where there will be a combination of both touchless and touch in services coming up, and I foresee us moving forward with that. On that note, I did want to say, so I've been open 2.5 months. Our business is, I want to say, as strong as ever. I'm going over our numbers, and they don't say the exact same thing as I'm telling you, but we're running about 75% of the business we were doing before all of this happened. My primary challenge right now is hands-on, and just it takes longer to do every service. Getting back to this is, as a spa director and somebody that's in that direct contact with that guest, the guest is still loving the hands-on aspect, but really back to Holly's question, I would love to see and hear what the vendors and how they are taking new steps forward. Because the reality is, what we did in the past was great, but we are going to have to make changes to move forward and make this ongoingly successful. And one other really quick point, I see multiple people on here I currently do business with. I see multiple people that I've done business with in the past. The open communication, I would completely agree, is the absolute best thing we could do. My best relationships with vendors are the ones that I do have open communication with. And to some of the past ones that I didn't do that great, I'm sorry. But it's, you know, I think that is a huge point of where we move forward. On getting that back on topic, would love to hear as companies what you guys are looking to step forward with to make this obviously successful for you guys, but help us move forward in this industry.
Jennifer, you put your face back on. Oh, Hannah, there she goes. And then Jennifer, I know you've got something to say, and so does Melissa. So we got 1, 2, 3, starting with Hannah.
Okay. I really appreciate John's feedback on that, because I've been hearing the same thing from my buyers, is that people are coming back full force. We're just at, you all are just at a limited capacity of what you're able to bring in right now. With that being said, I do find that the feedback I've been getting from my buyer partners is that people are a lot more interested and curious about new products having to do with their wellness. And also, I think that people, maybe not a large percentage, but I think it's definitely going to be there, that people are going to be so used to being so sterile at first that we're going, as vendors, need to provide them opportunities to maybe do some of these treatments and things at home. So for instance, I've never looked at a shopping cart so disgustingly in my life, you know? So we just see things differently, right? Than we did before COVID. So some of my buyer partners, for instance, were saying one of two things. One, I can only bring in a certain percentage of capacity of what I used to do. So therefore, can you create something for me that people can either take up to their hotel room or take home with them to continue the experience? And two, people want to come get the facial, but still want the extra experience of the body products. What can you do for me? So I created the Bliss Box, and that was specifically for a set in a treatment with a tea to take home or take back to their room to continue the experience. So I think as vendors, we have to be, be able to pivot like this so that we can continue to help the buyers. But as John said, the buyers have to tell us what the problem is. They have to communicate with us. Otherwise, we don't know what to do for them. And every area is different. So just going back to the same point, if the buyers can put I think Jennifer said it, if buyers can put the problem on us and let us come up with a solution, we have thousands of clients. We understand, and we've seen it, and we've seen what works and what doesn't work. Put it on us and let us provide the solution for you.
I think before I hand it over to Jennifer, because I think you wanted to also make a comment, and then I'll go to Melissa, is maybe we need to do a conversation that's like, what's the problem? We've got the solution, and just bring you guys as a panelist and let people just have at it, right? So that might be what is your event, Hannah.
I'll do it.
I love it. We may need to do an aside to that as well, but awesome. So Jennifer, it looks like you'd like to add to that statement as well.
Yeah, but I was just going to say paint guns included, right? At this, where's the problem and the solution? So what I was just going to say, and I'm just thinking about I have an apparel brand and I have a shoe brand, and they're a brand that's a lot of SKUs, right? You've got a lot of size runs and stuff. And so really hard to not only bring in new business, but even support our existing customers. But so I've seen them pivot, and where maybe before drop ship was not something they were willing to, put a process in place to do, they are now, and trying to be very supportive and help with that so that you can still bring revenue into your business, but not be stuck with a lot of inventory and off sizes and stuff like that. But the one thing I was going to say to that is, don't forget, people are people, and you keep us cooped up for too long, we're going to want more and more. And you know what we want? We want to talk, and we want to be touched, and we want to feel alive. And you don't feel alive when you're cooped up in your home. So when people are just getting back out, even if it's at 50% occupancy, if you just start a dialogue with them, they're just going to open up and tell you about everything. And then from there, you can just, seize the moment of where it makes sense with something that you have to offer them, not just in a service aspect, but in a retail aspect piece of it. And that's the one thing I'm just learning is I just stay in touch with people. I mean, just how they've been opening up. So we've always been that service oriented industry, but I think there's a whole nother level of really getting to know our customers on a completely different level.
I would 100% agree with you on that. I think this platform or this time has provided the platform for us to actually connect in this type of a way that we never really thought about before, even though it's been available, it's been here, but to be able to stay close. And you're right, people want to open up. I mean, I've had one-on-one conversations with a lot of you, and we've all, kind of opened up about our experiences, or, kind of what we're feeling, or, how we think things are going, or what our fears are, or what we're like, oh, well, this isn't as bad as I thought, or whatever that may be. And I think that's a really interesting point. I'm going to hand it over to Melissa, and then I'll give it to Ellie after that. Oh, and Tambra.
Unmute myself there. Okay, so I did send a bunch of you LinkedIn requests. So if you want to accept that, I'd love to keep this conversation going too. So during this time, what I noticed is internet sales for my region have just skyrocketed. And that is, through the Feed America USA website, but also we have a web affiliate program. So your favorite esthetician that you were always seeing before, as some people, we had to stay at home. Some people are less comfortable going to spas, and some people are still utilizing this resource, but getting your recommendation from your favorite esthetician, ordering your products online at home, and then through the affiliate program, our spas still get all of that profit. So that has been a great way to keep feeding business. And then now we're just starting webinars for wellness at home. So really focusing on remineralization, ways to boost your immune system. Of course, the popularity of SKUs has shifted. So we have an amazing moisturizing hand cream that's like selling through the roof because everyone's washing their hands every 30 minutes. And now dealing with mask knee, so the acne that you get around the mask. And so it's really those targeted solutions is kind of my summary, the same as everyone else's, of seeing what locations, what challenges those locations are having, and how to serve in the best way, what conversations to have our spa locations to be talking about in blogs and social media, and just feeding information so that people know there are resources for immune boosting, for mask knee and hand creams and all the things, the new things that have just popped up. But yeah, it is beautiful to be part of the wellness industry right now, because there hasn't been more of a demand. I think it's just in our face. Everyone wants to keep their immune systems boosted, keep their friends and their family and themselves protected. And so I think it's a prime time for us to just stay part of that conversation and keep hearing what people need.
I think that's great feedback. I'll call in Ellie and then Tambra. I'm sorry, I think you raised your hand a minute ago, and I thought maybe you were doing what I do, fidgeting. But I'll have you go after Ellie.
I'm just kind of going to add to this from, what we will see different in the market. And people are really looking for that experience, and it's exciting that they are going back, and we are seeing them come back. John mentioning even being at 75%, I think is really great back. But we are going to see some permanent changes in some industries that are going to have a harder time. I mean, we've seen our top sellers change. It was always for sleep, but now people aren't as worried about if they don't have a great night's sleep because they don't have to go to the office the next day, but we're seeing our immune product, flying through this, just selling out regularly in our vitamin D formula. But, the makeup industry is going to have a harder time for a year, but skincare because of new types of skin. So there are some trends that we can really look at. But again, I really believe that consumer wants that touch, and they also want to be able to still purchase there. You can definitely we do affiliate programs, we do a lot of different things to help, but that customer does want to buy when they're there. They want to go. So finding ways to work with the spas so that you're either shipping quickly so they don't carry as much back stock, or providing terms or discounts or things or guarantees are ways that I do think we will see vendors working with their partners, and also passing those guarantees on to the customer too, because the customer might be trying something new a little outside of their comfort zone. But the big thing we really also have to think about is people are going to think differently about how they feel and how they take care of themselves, because no matter what this virus is, and if we get the vaccine, we have seen people who have had underlying health conditions or different, type 2 diabetes and other things. They're getting sicker than other people. People who have low vitamin D levels are getting sicker than other people. So I think it is an opportunity for people to kind of say, what is in my control? And it is an opportunity for a spa to say, we can help you here. And to really, monetize that for the spa's success. And just a question out to John, I'm sure you've come up with this, but were you able to monetize the additional time spent to add on to the cleaning rooms? Because I've heard of a couple places that did some interesting things that I would share if it's not obvious common knowledge. Were you able to monetize the extending the room for cleaning?
So our biggest move was really switching from that 50-minute, 10-minute flip to that 55, 20-minute flip. So we are booking everything out on that hour and 15 or hour and 45-minute aspect. And it's funny, it's the sit-down conversation I'm actually having with the people above me later today, just about where we're headed and really what our real abilities are going to be. I'm currently looking at actually changing how I schedule, and I'm not going to go to 3 shifts a day on my massage therapists. Really, they're going to be about 4-hour shifts, being able to fit 3 massages in there. And it's we're really going to have to hammer down on how we can utilize the rooms, maximize the effort of the staff specifically. And the numbers long-term don't look as good as I would like, to be honest.
I did hear of a spa, and this could be common knowledge. I'm not a spa director. I don't know. You guys know a lot more than me. But I heard that in the additional minutes of cleaning or time that was the therapist, they actually were able to put that under a training rate. And so that the staff was able to feel, their time was being valued. And they took that kind of fee and built that into the treatment for the extended cleaning protocol. So just a suggestion I heard in the market.
I think that's a very solid idea. I think that starts tying into the price of service as well, which I know has been a hot topic also. I'm a firm believer we shouldn't discount or lower our prices in any way, shape, or form. And I'm still on the cusp of actually raising my prices with some additional new services coming up. And as Jocelyn will attest, I'm currently the highest paying person in my area, which I'm adjusting also. And so my expectations in that 20-minute downtime are extremely high. We have not brought back our cleaning company overnight. And so my service providers are now completely 100% accountable for their rooms, 100% floors and everything under the tables, you name it. As well as their little break room areas, all their supply room areas, putting away all the laundry, and then obviously restocking the room. So I will say some intensity has definitely increased on their 20-minute turn or their clean times. But yeah, it's a big change all the way across the board. And in a lot of conversation I have coming up, it's really trying to keep people on point to it, holding them accountable so that we can actually get this done properly, because it's real easy to slip back into the old habits and old expectations when the reality, the spa that closed back in March did not reopen. This is a whole new facility and a whole new game. And I'm off topic, sorry.
That's okay. I'm going to hand it to Tambra, and then Hannah, I see you'd like to make a comment. I do have a couple more questions, actually really maybe a third question if we have time for it. So Tambra, if you want to add to this topic that we're on right now, or I can certainly pose the next one and they might tie in too.
Well, I just, real quick, because John asked what we were offering. And so we are doing the drop ship, the affiliates, but after listening to Jennifer's retail talk the other night, I really just enjoyed that. Learning about the wellness and how us as a company, I don't think we came out swinging as much over the past few months of the fact that we have acidophilus and propolis and all these wonderful ingredients. And the lady who founded the company, it was all about wellness to her. And over the past few months, we've done morning Zooms, just trying to talk to our clients. And really our biggest thing is finding that access to our clients right now and our spa partners. So we're using Instagram and just kind of going in these random places. But one of our newest thing that we're kind of thinking about, if this would be helpful, is us offering some kind of version of a live chat where some of our accounts, maybe your receptionist, maybe she hasn't come back quite yet. So sealing that retail sale, maybe that's a challenge for some locations right now. So us as reps, we're thinking about rotating shifts of us being a live voice on the other end, where if you need help as a receptionist to close that deal, and something that we could recommend, and then to just kind of help in that way. So we've been constantly trying to figure out how to help the spa, but then also, you know, we're thinking about coming out with home retail facial kits, not professional style, but for those that, you know, so it's that tender walk of keeping our spa partners feeling, you know, that we want them in business and we want to help them make that money as well. But then also for those that can't, they need that retail, they need that drop ship, they need that curbside. So it's kind of been that juggling match, but we've been trying to support on both ends of that. So I don't know if anyone has any feedback or.
Yeah, that's awesome feedback. I love what you guys are doing. Hannah, I'll hand it over to you. Jocelyn, you did unmute. Did you have something you wanted to respond to Tambra real quickly?
So it's funny that you just mentioned Jennifer's webinar. I was just talking to her privately through chat, and just from everybody's feedback today too, it's really interesting because I reached out to all the vendors based on her feedback on the webinar, finding out who offers dropshipping, because for us right now, the idea of buying retail is going to be really hard. But in order to give our clients what they're looking for and also still be able to charge them up front, that's what I know I can do right now. So right now, I think it's about a 50-50 the companies that I work with that offer drop shipping and that don't. And I was surprised on both sides of that, who did and who didn't. And then getting those promo codes that our clients can use if they go on their actual website and purchase it, instead of buying it from us directly, giving them those opportunities and getting a bounce back credit to us. So just opening up that dialogue with them and learning everything that I could on what they could offer, and hearing all of you saying, you know, how much you want to support and how much you want to help. And again, Jennifer, thank you for even putting that in my brain last week. So as an operator, we don't know everything, and her sprinkling that knowledge on me is definitely going to help me with my business. And I want to just say in general, thank you all for wanting to be so supportive and so helpful to our operation, especially in this current time and this new normal.
Thank you for sharing that too. Hannah, I'm going to ask this other question because I actually think that you may be able to loop this into what you would like to say.
Okay.
And I know, Stephen, you have a comment on dropship. I'll come back to that if you don't mind, because I want to make sure I get these questions on real quick, because they are important, I think, to our future. What do you see us as an association being able to do in our new climate regarding events and learnings? So it's kind of on that topic of what I asked before about what you can provide versus what we can provide. But what do you see that climate being regarding events and learnings going forward?
You want me to answer this?
Yes, you can. And again, you can loop it into what add on if you want.
Okay. I mean, I personally really appreciate the panel discussions when there's vendors and buyers on the panel, because then you get both perspectives of whatever the situation is. And I like kind of preset topics to talk about, because usually it's the same issue, and then you'll see both sides of each issue. So what I was going to comment on, to give you a perfect example, is what John said, two things about the time of the scheduling, and then what are we doing to make money in between time. One is something that some of my clients are doing is if they're connected to a hotel, they're using the housekeeping department, because housekeeping is much cheaper than using your esthetician or anyone else, right? Number two, again, when you present a problem, we can provide solutions. This is why panels are so great. If you're trying to make money in between time during that cleaning time, for instance, I put together a protocol for a CBD foot soak. And so for the cost per treatment of less than $1, you charge $20 upgrade. It's the #1 upgrade that all my spas are doing right now when they're going back. And the client is sitting with with the foot soak, with the CBD and their tea or whatever, waiting for the room to be clean. They don't know that. They're just relaxing, having quiet time. But they charges $20, and it's like 92 cents cost per treatment. So there's, again, present the problem, let us bring you the solution, or bring you ideas like the housekeeping that other people have a lot of our other clients have done. But these kinds of discussions happen in panel discussions. So I love panel discussions instead of just vendors presenting all the time their new products, so that whatever, it's a real discussion happening on both sides of what everybody needs.
I think that's great feedback. And in essence, you answered, what do we need to do regarding events and learnings? I mean, having that opportunity to connect in that way, I think is incredibly helpful. And I do agree with you. We will definitely talk more about that with you. I know you are doing one with the Southeast Spa Association.
Right.
That's coming up, yeah? Or did it happen?
Tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely try to be joining that. I know we have our Wellness Wednesday tomorrow. And I can't recall, I don't think it's a conflict, or I can at least join some of it. So I'd love to listen in on that, and maybe we can, use that model as well with you all and some of our operators.
They are recording it, so I'll send you a link either way. Yeah. Fantastic. I have to jump off. I'm really going on my call now. But have a great day, guys. Thank you so much. Great discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else, like to add to that particular, question of, what do you see us doing? Some of you have already done yours. Some of yours are already on our calendar. What do you see us being able to offer that's beneficial to everyone in the industry? And I think, it doesn't have to be you selling a product, right? Or your product. I think Jennifer, again, I mean, everybody loved that. I mean, just to piggyback on that, because, we knew what your product was, right? We knew who you partner with, but yet you educated us on where things are going. And yes, we can certainly look to your brands as an answer and a solution to some of those, those changes that are happening in the future. But it wasn't a sales job. And I think most of you already know that, have joined and either had your event already or are planning your event, know that we're looking for totally outside of the box, like Tambra. Like, we're looking at completely like yoga sesh with soul oil, and just keeping it enough where you can build that relationship. So to elaborate on that, and I know some are falling off, because I know this is a long conversation, and we can certainly continue it again another time. But does anyone else have any ideas of what we can provide for you as vendors? What type of platform or what type of thing you want to do, or you think would be meaningful? Anyone? I can certainly also move into
Has anybody embracing live streaming?
I love live streaming. I haven't really officially done it, but I think that that is a great proposition.
I mean, if you're trying to connect to some of your prior customers and want to get them to coming back, or those that have come back, you will want to just try to do some live streaming. I mean, you can definitely reach out to your vendors to participate and help you a little bit with that.
Hmm. That's a great idea
Don't
too.
have to do the whole thing. It could be just like, just a little snippet,
Right.
just,
Well, in the live streaming too, I mean, there's a lot of things, and I'll grab you, Tambra, in 1 second. I see a lot of things on like Instagram, that are just this, 2 or 3 minute little 5-minute sort of live stream something, but obviously it still stays in that feed, especially if you're following that brand, for example, or that spa, right? Or that individual. So I think that's actually a really great idea. Let me know how I can help support that. I mean, I say I have like nothing but time, so I'm just going to utilize it on this. Tamara, what do you have?
Well, I was just going to say, so at the first 2 months, we were doing a Zoom every morning, and we were just coming up with topics, from breath work to eye treatments to, it just to give us something to interact with. And so we were doing a Zoom, and then right after doing an Instagram, we called it the after party. And so then we were just, the narrator and whoever was presenting was just kind of talking story, because you can't show product and you can't, but it just gave a little bit more time for a conversation between the two, because now you can share your screen and stuff. So that was kind of fun, but we found that was a lot, because then we had sales meeting Zooms and we were just on it all. We needed something to do. And then it was just hard to promote. So again, it's that promotion where we were promoting to the same people for the Zoom. And so those who watched the Zoom, the after party really was kind of more of the same. So being able to make those different audiences, I think that really helps you grab in 2 different directions. So it's a fun idea to mix those 2 worlds, I think.
Mm-hmm. And I think you could almost, I mean, and maybe I misunderstood, but I think that kind of conversation, that almost like that interview type of thing, could almost happen between, you have to certainly get a little bit creative, but there's got to be a way to have a conversation between, say, the vendor and, say, a spa. Right? I mean, you and John work together. So if you and John are having a live conversation on Instagram, like, I think that that could be an interesting way to kind of bridge also, and see that it's not just a brand just talking about the brand, but it's like how this brand is, how we work with John, right? The kind of support that we offer him, and vice versa. Like John, saying, oh, well, we came up with this idea and wanted to try this, and Epicurean was totally on board with being, doing some crazy idea or whatever it may be. Let me move into another question, and if we have time, I'll have one final one that I really want to try to get to. But what do you think that we can do as a unit, right, to influence and better our communities and this industry? That's kind of a loaded question, but there's a lot of experience on this call, and I think that would be an interesting conversation, or could be an interesting conversation.
Okay, just say that question one more time to make sure
Yeah. So what can we do as a unit to influence and better our communities in this industry?
So Jennifer, similar to your webinar last week, you were talking about how there are certain brands that give back, and it's just information that we need in order to share to our clients and or maybe place on the Colorado Association website, whatever it may be, because a lot of guests now are a lot more conscious about what they're buying and why they're buying it, and then they like to express, oh, I use this because they do this. So something like that.
Yeah, social consciousness. Well, and I was just going to say, like Ellie held up her dog. I got my 2 dogs that are staring at me at the door wanting to get in. And I think this is what I'm saying, you're learning a lot about people, right? And really what their passions and interests are. And I can't even explain how how the COVID is affecting so many different avenues that beyond just, just food, right? So there's just, I think you just got to find, everyone's got their own kind of interest, and everyone kind of just as a team just separates and picks what they're passionate about, and you bring it together, and all of a sudden you have this big pool, right, of all these opportunities that you can support, whether it's, Good Karma or Make-A-Wish or whatever it is. And then you'll find those that are a little bit closer or local. So a lot of it's been driven around food, as we saw at first, trying to help people who can't get out and get food and stuff like that. But there's so much happening with animals and nature that is hurting, right, from all of this. So that's what I would recommend, is everyone kind of just throwing in what they're interested in, what charities, what social consciousness means to them, and then you'll come up with a big deck. That's what I was saying about on that webinar. You ask your employees. Your employees are the people, right? They're not just estheticians. They have interests. They're not just front desks. They have interests and passions. They're not just massage therapists. They have interests and passions, and that contributing, when they can bring that personal part of their life into their business outside of just with their services, and then build that as part of the place they work at, that could be really huge.
Well, I'll just, since we're just talking story for a second, I attest to that, where, I'm an account executive for a skincare brand, and I've been with them for 15 years. And now all of a sudden I'm leading yoga because I'm a yoga instructor, and, just finding myself, and because I've been with this brand, I knew the founder, and now I'm the storyteller. So a lady older than me called me the matron of the company the other day, because I hold this story that no one does at this moment in time, and I can talk to her, and I can attest to where we came from, and share more of that wellness side. Then we're not just a skincare brand, and so it's been really challenging for me, but it's been really just really wonderful to learn more of all the different aspects. So like your expertise in retail, it blew my mind. I loved hearing about that. And then I can lead you in breath work or talk permaculture, or, there's so much that everyone has, which is really, it's fun to just find different communities. And now the fact that you were saying, like, it's the whole life that it's welcome for me to share that. And I don't know if I ever really felt that for a long time, but that more than just that sell, really, the more I can show them that I'm a human being and I'm a mother, and I encourage their growth, and whatever I can do from here, I'm more than happy to do it. So it's an interesting moment in time to kind of let all those other avenues out, and that's valuable more than before. So I'm trying to embrace that, but it's very challenging, but it's really neat as well. Yeah.
I mean, you could always add, this kind of outside the box thinking, or maybe somebody's already done this, but say someone's checking out from a service and they have an opportunity to add $5 to one of your charities or whoever you're supporting, and you just have a list of it, and let them choose who that is. Whether it's, you just list whichever ones you want to support, but you'd be surprised if people take $5 out of their pocket and do it, but it'll add up in dollars. That Brown Palace contributed, $500 to Good Karma and $500 to Make-A-Wish Foundation. And you don't have to do that in any marketing scheme other than, maybe just it's on your Facebook or whatever. It's not about marketing. It's about, feeling good.
Yeah, I love that. I'm sorry I had to step away. We had a minor little issue. My daughter cut her finger opening a can of tuna, but we're good. She's sitting next to me right now, toughing it out. And we'll survive. No fingers are lost, so we're all good there. Yeah, I do think too that the proposition of giving back is important. I know that that's kind of where where that went, and obviously as an association, we wanted to make sure that we were also giving back to charities, and certainly these can evolve, and they can rotate and change and whatnot. But we do have 4 that we give back to now, and I will be making a donation since most of our membership dollars have come in this month. at the end of this month, I'll be giving to each of those charities equally with the revenue that we have coming in. And then, you know, kind of to that point though, and Jocelyn and I spoke about this a bit, is, you know, we want to be able to feature what you all are doing. So, and who you're giving back to if you are. I think that's important. So we will add that to our website. I'll reach out to our members, you know, those of you that are formally members, who you give to, and you can send that in from, kind of think about how that can look on our website to make sure that it's efficient, but somehow to be able to feature each of you and what you do to support you know, the community and the greater good for sure. I know several, I mean, we only have 10 of us left, and 3 of us are the representing the association, but I actually want to ask a question. Perfect. Thank you, John. You got to run in 5 minutes. All right, fine. Fine then. No, this is a lot of time, and I do appreciate it from all of you. But here's something, and I probably should have asked it first, but I kind of wanted to see if the conversation would evolve into this at all. And I really am opening Pandora's box, and I see I have all different types of vendors on here. Newer brands, older brands, maybe newer reps, older, you know, experienced reps. So I would love feedback from all of you on this question. And so the vendors are expected to pay more, typically into associations. And as I mentioned, maybe at the beginning of the call, and maybe I didn't. I don't remember if that was a pre-call or not. I did mention it, right? Yeah. What is, you know, vendors are asked to pay more. And when I was challenged that, right, I was asked by a few of them. That's right, because Kim was on the call. She was actually one of them who was like, "Hey, I'm going to challenge you here. You know, we'll join, but I'm just curious. The fact that you're expected to pay more, right? And our only response is it's the norm and you got to pay to play is the answer. What do you as a vendor expect out of paying more? And if you were to be paying equal, if that it was level playing field all the way across the board to join, what do you feel you would add to in terms of value to us? So it's a twofold question. Who wants to go first? Loaded.
Geez, I guess I will. I always get to be the talker. Okay, so you know that I joined as my own independent company. Mm-hmm. So I'm a 1099. So I don't get reimbursed from any of these brands to be a part of this. So I felt like me joining was not only having an opportunity to maybe help grow my business, but I want to be a part of something. I want to learn from you guys as much as be a part of it. I mean, that's what I like about associations. It's being a part of something. So I want to share with you guys as much as I can learn from you all. So for me, paying equally is because if it was my perspective of paying equally is I'm going in with it with that frame, you know, frame of mind. I mean, I help people. Some people are looking for help, and I've recommended some. I know somebody's looking for a job, and you know, so it's not just always about the sales aspect of a vendor side of it. So my perspective is paying equally would be I'm just as much a participant and a member of the association without any sales expectations coming out of
it. And the fact that vendors typically pay more. And certainly in this case, that's true too. I mean, we've tried to provide at least a value, like an equivalent value with, you know, having that exclusive opportunity to host, you know, a conversation or what have you. But, you know, really thinking about it, when we get down to that nitty gritty, right? Typically it's significantly more, right? Even when everything's normal, vendors pay significantly more. So because of that, what do you expect comes and should come out of that higher price tag of membership?
new business.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And growing existing, but definitely new business.
Yeah, a newer avenue of way of talking and expressing who we are. Because I think before this, it was knocking on doors and phone calls and leaving my card and showing, I would show that I was consistent, that I really cared. But when the timing wasn't right, they, just for years, I would get blown off. And then all of a sudden, 7 years later, John, you weren't the culprit, but I chased Brown Palace for 7 years. And then finally, I found someone who listened to me and he's like, hey, I know who you are. Well, looky there, right? So it's really finding a new avenue to allow for a conversation. And in that, I think we can add interesting topics, to bring people to it. So I think that's a value that we add, is we can talk story in different ways. And each brand has certainly a wonderful story, a person behind it, so there's always a story to tell. And I'm a huge fan of stories. My life is full of experiences and story. So that's certainly something that I can thrive off of, but allowing each person to have that platform to talk and, being in this industry for 15 years, learning that teaching is very different. Some people are more tactile and they're not note takers, so that's an interesting avenue for me that, I want to be able to engage those that they need that hands-on as well, and so it's going to be an interesting avenue moving forward. But I feel that what you could help us with is gather more people that are interested. And so in that, the topics need to be interesting as well, but to gather different thought processes and different people and different avenues and different businesses. So I think your challenge hopefully is to just bring in, like you were saying, the little esthetician, the one who's just now trying to learn, so that there's fresh new ideas, there's fresh new faces, just kind of things along that avenue is what I'm hoping for. Right?
I think that's great. I know Ken unmuted first. I'm going to have you answer, and then Jessica looks like she also unmuted. If I could also, if anyone wants to, or Ken, if you want to add to this, your response, do you, with the new business, however, is it almost an unspoken expectation that the association will really be bringing that new business to you? And do you consider it to be almost not a good partnership if no real new viable business is generated through that partnership?
So I think I'll answer that question first. I think the answer is yes. At the end of the day, we all join associations to get new business. But the other thing I wanted to add to that is I think it's a unique perspective. I'm a smaller company, much smaller, based in Denver. So we're a Colorado company. So when I join there are so many associations out there. And obviously we lack the resources as a smaller company to go all over the place to Las Vegas, or even Las Vegas is not that far, but even then, and then you have Florida and all that. So we just don't have the resources. And so my own expectation, which would be very different from, others that are on this call, would be really to say, okay, well, highlight Colorado-based companies. If you are in a regional spa association and the clients are regional, then I would hope that you would also highlight the companies that are, or the vendors that are from this area. That's very specific, probably just applies to me rather than the rest of the vendors out there. But I think that's one expectation, definitely. And the other thing also is about, most of the time it's really going out there and it's to be fair, when you're in a marketplace like that, it's fair game. It depends on resources and your connections, how you can get new business and stuff. But for us as a smaller company, again, I think I would hope that there is some sort of highlight, more along the point what I was saying before, but also, maybe like a more Colorado-based thing. And that's why, for me, it would be interesting to have a Colorado association. Otherwise, just like iSpa and whatnot, you know, I mean, there are so many out there already. So
I think that's a really good point. And Jocelyn actually, I think, brought that up in our very early days, about, you know, kind of trying to highlight at least the brands that are from our state. You know, most individuals that have joined, or most brands that have joined, have, you know, at least at the very minimum, it's really that regional person or that local person, that representative that is representing the brand.
no.
But definitely, I mean, there's a lot of great Colorado brands that we can, and that's a real, you did touch on something that is exactly why I think this conversation is important, is that, you know, otherwise we could just be another, you know, we're just another iSpa, right? We don't want to be that. And not there's nothing wrong with iSpa. I think iSpa is great. They're international. Regardless of wherever this goes, if this goes beyond just the Rocky Mountain region and it grows, I don't know where this will take us. But I do think that it's important for us to have an opportunity to focus on our backyard, right? The areas that we're familiar with, and to provide you as a vendor a real opportunity to build relationships. Come over to your house for a cocktail party, and, you know, for all those folks that live in Colorado. We love that. I love that. I'm totally taking advantage of you for that. You know that, right?
The other thing, like Jennifer pointed out earlier, you know, she's like a 1099 herself, and you know, versus a bigger company. So, you know, I don't know what the membership fee is like, but my experience in the past also is sometimes you join this association, and what you get back in business actually doesn't even pay for the membership and the cost to participate in those events. You know, for example, if you look at our website, we have very few SKUs. So our business is very limited. And of course, you know, you go to Vail, one spa carries you, and then nobody else will, because they won't be the only one in the valley, right? So by the time you do all that in the entire state, I can only have 3 or 4 maximum. So then, you know, if the cost for me to join is the same as the cost for a much bigger company to join, I'm already at a competitive disadvantage, and I'd rather not join and just, like, you know, make some calls once in a while. And so I don't know. I mean, if from your perspective, that may be hard to handle as well. You know, how do you really look at the size of a company and scale the membership fees? You know, maybe too complicated. But at least from my standpoint, that's something I always run into. I joined the Florida Spa Association last year, for example, did an event in Palm Beach. And after that, yes, I got 2 orders, but they were like seasonal promotions. And then I looked at numbers, it was like, wow, it was 0. You know, so it's like, well, this year I didn't join. Well, good thing, I mean, because of COVID. But even without that, I don't think I would, you know, I don't think I'll join again. I mean, I will probably put the people, you know, that I got to know on the mailing list and send email blasts, but you know, it's just too difficult. The cost becomes too high.
I think that's great feedback, because you're right. You know, there is this idea. I mean, this is my perception, right? I'm kind of the outside looking in, even though I've been on both sides, and I've heard from you know, from vendors that, you know, for a lot of them, what is the value for a smaller company? And for a bigger company, like, sometimes, you know, they don't need to be in your area. Jen, I know you may need to run. Thank you for all of your feedback. I really appreciate it. If Melissa and Jessica and Ken, you guys can stay on, I'd love to kind of tap into this, and Tambra, sorry, as well. I'd like to tap into this a little bit, but that's part of the reason why we're bringing this up, is because we want to try to figure out a way for it to be, again, inclusive is the big word of the day, as far as I'm concerned, right? How do we include really just about everybody, right? How can everybody be a part of the association? And obviously, in order for us to be able to offer webinars and things like that, or to be able to, which I didn't mention earlier, but you know, some of you may know this already. I know Tambra and Jessica do. Like, we're looking at, creating welcome kits for new members, and having opportunities to be a part of that. We have to cover that cost, right? And certainly, if I want to be able to be, for this association to be most things or a lot of things to everyone, there has to be income coming in to allow me the opportunity to go forward and bring in some kind of an income for myself, right, as a business. But to that point, I do see how a lot of, the associations are quite costly. And I've heard, from things like, iSpa, right? Not to talk down about iSpa. I love iSpa and I go every year, but it's not viable for every business to not only be a member and pay a large chunk of money to become a member, but then also on top of that to pay a lot of money to be, to have, say, a booth or whatever, right? What's the ROI? A company like Jessica's, that might make more sense. It's equipment. It's a higher cost per good, right? Even at a wholesale price or whatever it may be. So their return on investment, they may see a lot quicker, or it's a no-brainer for them, clearly. Feed and Mirror may be the same, but some of these smaller businesses, whether it's your 5 SKUs that you have, 5, am I right? Is it 5? Yeah, 5 SKUs, to Tambra, who actually Epicurean has a lot of SKUs, and a lot of people don't realize that. But how do you generate that new business, but at the same time spend a lot of money? And we've given a lot of thought to that, which is why I wanted to bring up this conversation. Jessica, I see you're unmuted, and I'm really I'm really curious about that piece of this, because you and I talked about shaking things up and being super provocative too. And yeah, I don't know. I'd love your insight.
I think a couple things. So I preface this as well that we are an equipment company, and I came from a skincare company though, however. And I can also remember many years, 10 years of my life was spent at regional associations such as Florida Spa and Las Vegas Spa before I saw a return on those investments. So couple of things. Vendors come to me all the time and say, should I join LVSA? Should I join FSA? Maybe someday people ask me about Colorado, and I always tell them the same thing. If you're just going to have your toe in the water with a regional association, it's probably not worth your time, because these regional associations, I know, Holly, this may not help you as much for just Colorado, but these regional associations really are a community. And therein lies the power of regional associations on their own. Everybody knows everybody. They all tend to have gone to high school with each other or college, or their kids go to the same school. They've all been in the same state for years. So if you become friends with Holly, and if Holly recommends Olavi, she's going to tell her best friend she went to high school with, but you are a blood part of their association, versus an iSpa. iSpa is triple the cost. Quite honestly, if you slice and dice iSpa's list, it's mostly Marriott, Ritz-Carlton, Four Seasons, so on and so forth. There is so many boutique hotels, spas that are part of Colorado that are not even a part of iSpa. So to answer the original conversation about vendors paying more, I think it is right if vendors pay more, if that association is very compelling and keeps those local and regional properties of all levels, day spas, resort spas, medical spas, maybe even schools. To me, that is worth the vendors paying more, because you're keeping that. And I think FSA has done that extremely well, and I think LVSA has done that extremely well. Again, I worked LVSA for probably 10 years before I even and people would say to me all the time, my girlfriend, Angelica, I think, is a member of Colorado. She was like, Jessica, I'm going to leave LVSA. I'm talking to us as vendors now. I'm like, no, just stick with it. You gotta show up. You gotta, Vegas is cheap. Go on Spirit Airlines. I don't care. Whatever it is you're gonna do to show up. She showed up. She's having some of her record years ever. So you can't with regional spa associations have a toe in the water. That would be my advice, even though I'm with a larger company. And yes, we sell equipment, but man, it took me personally many years of showing up and having those relationships where I did not yield a dollar. And same with, like, if you just look at now Florida, I'm like you, Ken. Florida is way across the friggin' country. So even for myself, I would like to be more involved in FSA, but like some of the electronic things they have done have been very powerful for us during COVID. Thank God we were a part of it, and we killed that state. So I think Colorado, it's exciting for Colorado Spa Association because you're going to have it's those people and those relationships when you become really a part, even though as vendors, we may or may not be there every day, depending on if you're a local rep or a national company or et cetera, you do become a part of that association. And when you see them at iSpa, it's another blood level, when you're personally contributing to them, because you do have your own regional sets of laws, you have your own traveler, you have your own local guest. Each association has its own language, which is, you got to learn that language by region, I think, and that helps you really sell. So I don't know if that answered your question, but I'm always straight up with people. I'm like, I actually am more passionate about regional associations than I am about national associations. I would rather put my dollars in the ones that are good, though, the ones that are powerful. There's been a few flops for sure that I don't think are that great, but I think Holly's driving this and it's going to be great.
Well, you're very sweet. I mean, I have some really killer people supporting this, right? With Jocelyn and, the board of directors. It's just, I think certainly an exciting time, but I want to make sure that we do it right. And that we, the idea of membership fees. I mean, we published them for next year. That's the maximum will be. We could certainly take it down. But now's the time to have that conversation to decide, who do we want to be? What do we want to do? Do we want to, I mean, we certainly, and Ken, to your question, we are in general more affordable. Certainly this year, our vendor rate is, we're doing kind of this intro rate for 2020, and it's $220 in 2020. And one of the things that, at least right now, we know we can guarantee, again, with COVID, that it makes things a little bit tricky, but the one thing that we can and do guarantee is that you get a virtual event experience, that you are fully the host. We'll host it, but obviously you're the featured brand, and you can do that however you want. You could talk about your product, or you could mention your product and do something totally different, kind of like what we're exploring a bit with Tambra, and what we've done with with Jennifer with her retail brand. The other thing that we're also putting those dollars towards, sorry, I had a fly, those dollars towards, is your ability to, maybe you just want to build relationships right now. You could put that $220 towards sponsoring. So our Wellness Wednesdays, for example, this month, and then we have another one next month, we have a mental health expert that is leading that conversation. And I think you might have actually joined us last month with that Mindful of the Madness. I can't remember for sure, but that Mindful of the Madness series is really great because, it's something that it's just literally about wellness. It has nothing to do with, any brand in particular, but, a brand perhaps like yours, or like, Oakworks, that's a good avenue, because maybe you don't want to talk about your equipment. That's okay. If you don't have anything to sell in right now, or, people's funds are tight or whatever, you can be that sponsor for that, mental health wellness, and you can say hi in the beginning, introduce yourself, and say who you're from and why you were passionate about sponsoring that particular Wellness Wednesday conversation. And then it goes straight into whatever we're doing. So, we're trying to look at a value, a dollar value in a sense to get you out there so that it's not a lot of money for anyone, no matter how big, how small your company is, how many SKUs you have. You could have just one, as far as I'm concerned. Selling a case of 6 of those might be your return on investment, for example. So we're looking at that, but I really wanted to have this conversation now because, as we think about the future, like right now, I think the 220 is good. There is a lot of value. A lot of our brands are saying that's a no-brainer. Even the small ones, they're like, that's great. I get this free event. But what do we do going forward into 2021? Do we stick with what our published rates are, which for a vendor right now are $650 for the year? And that would still include an opportunity to have a free virtual event. That doesn't go away. And what does, what does that, what does that look like? So that's kind of why I wanted to put this out there. Is $650 too high? Do we need to bring it down? Do we need to just have a level playing field altogether? Does everybody pay in at the same price? And then for vendors that want to host, is everything kind of sponsored dollars? I don't know. Bye, Tambra. Thank you. So that's where we're kind of getting at with this. I'm, privately, Jocelyn and I were kind of chatting about, sending out to the vendors a questionnaire, and we had over 40 registers. So I will, but not every, some popped in, some popped out, some couldn't make it at all. That's okay. But I'm thinking that maybe what we do is we send out a survey and we ask some of these real provocative questions again. With that in mind, though, and having the two of you here, and you two are on totally opposite sides of the spectrum. So I think that that is really cool. And Robin, I forget where you are calling in from, and I'm not sure if you, I know you've been a little bit in and out. But if I could have you guys maybe think of or share some questions that you would like to, that you think that we should ask our vendors. And how this partnership should look like as we grow and evolve as an association. And you can either speak to it or you can type it in, whatever works for you. This has been recorded as well, so we can always go back to it if you don't want to type it in. Kind of a big question, I know. And to sort of prompt this, I'll certainly ask that question of like, if you are, as a vendor, if you are charged more, what do you expect from the association? And if you were to have a level playing field, what would that look like to you? No problem, Robin.
I was waiting for Ken to answer because I didn't want to be the big company answering. I think I met you before, Ken, too, in the past. I remember meeting you. I don't know about 2021. I don't think any of us know, to be really honest. I know that against some of the other associations, you're definitely lower. You might want to think about pricing and setting it moving forward, and so you set a what's that word? Sort of a threshold. You just set that. I really think it's going to depend upon the number of participants you get who are consistent, and that's going to, who are buyers, again, all levels, and that's going to set the prices that you'll be able to charge. Mm-hmm. And some of that's TBD, right? So like when we look at some of the other associations that do it really well, we it's worth that price because we have that constant ongoing interaction. Plus, somebody mentioned earlier some of the influx of new. They do a good job with that. And that's just because, again, it's just a positive regional association and you're having compelling content and those kinds of things. So I wish I could give you an answer, my friend, in terms of what pricing I feel is right for next year. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's going to all could be contingent upon participation is the best that no pressure. Well, it's be contingent upon participation of spas. So
Yeah.
spas, and I don't want to just say spas though, because I really think it's time to think outside of the box. It should be day spas and resort spas and schools, and maybe that, and those don't always get along well with each other. Maybe there's ways you can carve that out. But I know the vendors, like I work with school sports teams, physical therapy, stretch, cryotherapy franchises, acupuncture franchises. If I didn't have that as part of our business and we only had resorts right now, we'd be in trouble.
Mm.
So
why don't you connect anyone in this region?
always. I think
because
that
I think all of that should be on the table. I mean, that's definitely
Yeah.
my vision of like I don't, again, outside of the box. I don't. Resorts are not the be all end all, and they certainly are the first people to put spa directors on the chopping block.
Yes.
So
yes.
I mean, and then we're gone. That's a lot of times why people move around so much, and certainly, you know, why I want to get out is that
Right.
I need something that, you know, I'm so passionate about my industry, and I constantly feel stifled in an operation.
Yeah.
And the only way I'm not going to feel stifled is by continuing with this or opening my own, because I can let my creativity run, and I can let the creativity of the people around me run, and we can just, you know, totally go crazy and again, that out of the box, you know, thinker that I am. I encourage that from everyone, but so many times you're just like, which to your point, to have all these other entities is why some of you are more successful right now in this climate than others, and why some of you are going to stick around and some of you aren't going to be able to. And Ken, I don't know what that's looking like for your business, but also perhaps, and maybe the plus side of only having 5 SKUs is that maybe it's not as huge of an issue, even though you might not be seeing a return on investment or new accounts right now. Thankfully, you only have 5 SKUs. You know, you're not underwater with, you know, 150 products. Yeah.
So Holly, I have a suggestion. I don't know whether it's a suggestion or not, but something just came to mind, so I thought I'd just share with you. So since you're just starting out with your association, I think one of the worthy things to do would be actually to go out there and do a survey of all the different types of spas, maybe resort spas, maybe hotel spas, ranked by, you know, like X number of treatment rooms to X number of treatment rooms ratio versus what, and then ask them, okay, who is looking for new lines and whatnot? Because let's face it, if in a COVID environment, everybody is just scaling down everything, nobody's making change, the appeal for a new vendor to join your association, you know, is really not there, to be very honest. It's like, you know, why should I join an association if I have no chance of even making one sale, right? Because nobody is making any changes. I mean, it's a lot of work, as you know, to make menu changes, to do training. We can't do in-person training right now. So a lot of those things become very difficult, and a lot of people are just staying put. So then, you know, I think maybe that's kind of like a first step, what I would do, and then put that out there. And then, you know, if the survey comes back and a lot of people are like, okay, well, I'm looking to, like, maybe next year, and people all of a sudden change, like, oh yeah, now I'm looking for new stuff, I'm looking to change the menu, I want new face line, this many SKUs, body line, whatever, with unique concepts. Then people know, and then you will attract the right vendors if they have that information. They're like, oh, okay, then it's worthwhile to join. I don't know if that's actually feasible and how much work is involved, but that's what came to my mind. I thought I just wanted to share it.
Yeah, and you kind of piggybacked on some of that comment or that kind of idea earlier on in the conversation today, and that could, quite frankly, be something that that we can add into our membership, even, right? Like, you know, what tell us what you need when you join, because we're gonna try to answer that, right? We're gonna try to respond to that, And that way too, like if you need it, they need a skincare brand, or they're not looking for anything right now or whatever, and they just want to join because they want to be a part of a group, connect with people and build relationships and friendships. That's great too. Then we know who of our partners need what, and that's information then that we can extract and give out to our or even like publish that essentially in our member directory, and say that, you know, right now this is like, what's your why'd you join, what's your why.
Love that.
Yeah. Well, it is 1:20. We've been on for quite a while. We will continue the conversation. Thank you all so much. Keep an eye out. If you haven't seen your survey yet, and Ken, I know that I sent one. You're in my database. Please fill out that survey from previously, because it does kind of ask those questions, and I could definitely use more information. And I believe it was, I can't remember what it was called. I think I just did. Member insights from the Colorado Spa Association. Member insights was something, or membership insights, something to that effect. So please fill that out, because that'll collect a lot of that information too to help us further grow.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I will fill it out. Thank you.
I figured out how to unmute
Nice to meet you
my
guys.
phone.
Oh,
The
yay!
last minute. I was talking at it for like, I kept talking at it, and I'm like, they can't hear me. So anyways, thank you so much. It was great. I really appreciate this.
Bye-bye.
It's good to see everyone. Take care.
Thank you,
Bye.
Robin. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.